Okay, so the question is Primus, what's the difference? So asking for a C keyway, there's the classic obverse keyway, which has been, it's probably the second most common keyway ever of all time. Maybe the quickset keyway is the most common. But when you say C keyway by Schlage, well, you can do a C in Primus as well, and that would be a CP keyway, C Primus. So, and I don't command an expert level of understanding of Primus as does someone from the factory. But the overview is when Primus, that was actually that there was a person who, that technology may have been patented in the mid or early 1980s. Schlage, the first time I had seen it was very early 1990s, and it was on the market, I think, before then. The difference is that the Primus has what's called a side bit milling. So when you insert the key into the cylinder, you have the regular pin tumblers that ride in the cuts of the key. Well, now there are these additional tumblers, they're called finger pins, in the cylinder, so that when you insert the key, you have your regular tumblers that fit into the cuts of the key, but now you've got these finger pins. They're actually like this. They're actually upside down, and the little tip rides in the cuts in the side of the key. So what that does is it creates two shear lines. So if you're trying to pick the cylinder, you have more to contend with. It also has a substantial impact on the quantity of change keys that are theoretically possible, because if you have a 6-pin system, and Schlage is a 2-step system, so let's say you have 4 rows in your key bitting array, you would have 6 to the 4th power possible number of changes that you can have. 6 to the 4th power. No, that's not right. No, it's 4, forgive me, it's 4 to the 6th power. 4 to the 6th power. That's how many changes you have. But now when you add those side bit millings, you have left, right, and center, and then I think deep and shallow cut. So now in each position you can have 5 more possibilities, and there are either 5 or 6 finger pins. So the amount of changes theoretically becomes huge. When Primus was launched, and to this day there are different levels of Primus. Level 1, 2, 3, and 4, and I'm going to get to the document in a moment. Anything beyond level 1 becomes very restricted, becomes restricted in terms of you just don't get your hands on this stuff. Now, Primus is no longer under patent, so there are other companies who actually manufacture Primus keys, but only in the level 1, the base level of Primus. And really, when you're buying Primus, or Everest for that matter, which has a check pin in the cylinder, the only thing that you're really accomplishing is making it inconvenient to get your hand on a blank key. But when you get into beyond level 1, the ability to get key blanks becomes basically for all intents purposes becomes not possible unless you are the authorized, provable owner of that system. So we get calls all the time. Someone says, yeah, I need a Primus key. Great. No problem. And I know where this is headed, because they have a condo in Florida and they just want some more keys cut because the condo association charges $100 each. The issue is this. Whomever established the system originally with Primus or with Corbin-Russwin Pyramid or any other restricted keyway, they put the money down so that they're preventing you from getting copies. That's the whole point. So what does the factory do? They invest a ton of money into developing the technology. You buy into the technology, and then they support it with keeping a complete lockdown on who can get those key blanks. You can go all the way up to level 4, where the relationship is directly with the manufacturer and the end user. Think of a defense contractor, a big one. Tens of billions in sales a year. Yeah, there's no distributors that are involved between the defense contractor and the manufacturer. They have their own keyway, they have their own everything. So if we're dealing with level 1, we can supply you with the basic keyways, the C keyway, the E keyway. And let's just touch on the actual difference, or the cylinder technology itself. Now, from within my website, if you go to manufacturers and pull up the manufacturers page and then search for Schlage, you're going to get to the manufacturers page. And this page is cool because it has some cool things in it, like, you know, and we have, you know, here's a catalog from 1982. Here is one from 1972, and I have others, mid-century, that just aren't uploaded yet. But the point of the matter is there are service manuals that are on here, and Schlage has their service manual for Primus, which explains it very well. In order to, in all instances past level 1, certainly, the end user needs to declare themselves by putting down on paper their request. We are so-and-so. We are so-and-so corporation. We are hereby requesting that Primus keys, blah, 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 to be purchased from, distributor name involved, comma, possibly contractor name involved, possibly, and then they list what is being ordered. The person who is authorized on the system signs that. That document goes to the factory, and they literally compare that signature and that person's name to records on file. And if there's not a match, there are no key blanks. There's no service. There's nothing provided. So that's the majority of time when we get contacted for Primus. These people bought it on an online flea market. Well, I need some Primus blanks. I bought these on an online flea market. Well, guess what? You can't get them. The lock was $14 for a $400 lock. Why? Because you can't get any key blanks. Primus Service Manual. This document here instructs us as to the technology itself, and the basic understanding of this is the side bit milling, which is touched on here. That is 17. These are on page 24, these are the keyways explained. The C is very common. The E is very common as well. Level 1 and level 1 plus. You get down into here and forget about easily getting any of this stuff. Well, forget about it without having proper authorization. The pin that I want to show you is here. So these are the finger pins. There are 5. And there's also a sidebar as well. Okay. These finger pins will not enter the sidebar until the proper key is cut, until the proper key is inserted, I should say. And that is illustrated here. Okay. You have left, center, right. Then you have, I think you have shallow and deep. Yeah, the 2012 book shows it differently in that they show the pins here. So the finger pins. Well, anyway, the point of the matter is you have, okay, so there are 6, here's what it is. There are 6, well, there are 7 because there's a new technology that takes a different one. But there are 6 finger pins, basically. You've got shallow and deep left, shallow and deep center, shallow and deep right. And it looks like this. So when we delve into that XP, Primus XP takes the 7th pin. When we dive into the world of Primus, we are diving into a much more robust technology, and one that is either available or extremely unavailable because of the very nature of the system, that is a restricted and protected keyway that is governed by the factory, and nothing gets done without proper authorization on most Primus. Great little exploded view if you wanted to understand the technology. They're easy to key. There's no problem with keying them, and you generally don't modify the finger pins. If you're dealing with a C keyway or an E keyway in a level 1, what's interesting is the side bit milling is the same for every C or E keyway, and there is, on page 16 of the 2012 book, they show you the side bit milling for that keyway. So the side bit cutting we already discussed, 1 through 6. 1 and 2, you got left, right, and center. So the number 6 means left or right, and left, right, or center, and it means shallow or deep, and that's also listed in the manual. The point of the matter is, when someone tells us the keyway, that tells us for sure they're side bit milling. So you can't order a Primus level 1 in an E keyway and stick it into a cylinder that's prepped for a C, because while I can pin it to the traditional bitting, my side bit millings don't match and my finger pins won't match. So unless I'm going to rekey the cylinder and rekey the side bit millings, the finger pins, it just simply doesn't work that way. So when you order an E keyway, you're getting a blank, but you're getting that side bit milling to this code versus this code. And the $64,000 question is, nobody cuts the side bit millings except Schlage. There is no commercially available machine to cut these side bit millings. So that's all defined at the factory, and that's just simply how that's done. And this is the if we wanted to decode that side bit milling for the C keyway, this is what decodes it. Anyway, that is a lot of information, and let's wrap this video up. So now, in your example of you need a C, the Primus was stated, then I need a C. Well, do you need the regular C or the Primus C? Because of your client, if they're asking for Primus, it's very likely they have an existing system. So you'll need to basically interrogate the client, not interrogate, but to RFI the client. Do you have an existing Primus system? If yes, you need to know all the information, because it could be a dead end, meaning, they're not the authorized user. I think in your scenario, though, that they very likely do have an installed Primus system and that they have access to all of the proper information. What that would be a registry number. It would be even a photograph on the end of the box of the key blanks. It would be maybe a purchase order or an acknowledgement from Schlage that they can look up and help us verify the identity of the end user. The other final thing to really dive into in terms of a deep dive are the different levels of Primus, and let's take a look at that. Now, the different levels of Primus are discussed in the 2014 manual, and starting on page 15, okay? So you can read this and review it. Level 1 is not going to be a problem to supply, okay? You get past that into Primus level 1 plus, then things change, okay? Now this information here is important information to know when you are dealing with an existing system. It's what we have to know. But I've also sold Primus to customers who just simply want a key blank that will prevent the whomever of going to the local big box store or the cobbler or the the hobbyist from copying a key. And like I said, it doesn't make it impossible with level 1. It just makes it inconvenient. So the way I see it, when someone asks for Primus, they either don't know what they're asking for, and what they're really talking about is a very restricted, thoroughly restricted system that not that they have no business asking for, but inserting themselves into the relationship between the end user and the factory will ultimately prove to yield no forward motion. And when you speak to your client, if it's obvious they have an existing system, then you need the information so that we can provide that, find out what level or what system it is, and then proceed accordingly. As I was saying earlier, I can sell you Primus, and it won't match any existing information, any existing system integrity, unless it's level 1 and C. Then the side bit milling will be the same. But you'll need to really dive in with your client and say, tell me exactly what you're already running. And what would be nice is if they were to send you a photograph of the key on both sides, and if there's any supporting other information, a box, a PO number. All right, now let's wrap it up. And finally, I've had customers tell me how ridiculous it is that they just can't get a Primus key. Sure, that's the condo owner who just wants a key for their, the people they're renting for a week, and they don't have authorization to do that. The reason that the condo association gets $100 a key blank, and it sure does not cost $100, but what has to be understood is the original investment is a huge upcharge to the lock system. So that's where that $100 comes in. The locksmith doesn't cost him $50 to spend 4 minutes at your place and remove a broken key blank. It was the 30 years of experience it took to learn how to do that and do it well. Anyway, you get the point. That link to the manufacturer's page is super handy because it has all that documentation there. There is, if you wanted to see something neat about the C, the classic C, there's a link called Key Blanks Quick Reference Guide, and that's a single sheet that is an overview of the Schlage system, and in the far right-hand corner, conventional obverse keyways. That will show you the C, classic C, is what they call it. That's part of what's called with the directory, with the tree, that's called a multiplex system. And that is used to great effect for a couple of major reasons. So when you're finding out what keyway your client has, you really need to find out what keyway your client has, because it affects everything about what they're trying to do. Anyway, thank you very much. My name is Rich Howard. Any questions on Schlage Primus? I will certainly attempt to answer the question. Thank you.